The history of outsourcing is strongly correlated with the growth of modern business, which grew exponentially in the latter half of the 19th century. For the first time, the late 19th century saw certain countries develop material abundance, moving away from the scarcity of the past. Many goods and services were made available at low cost. This change was made possible by the technological advancements of the time. In the history of technological modernization following the Industrial Revolution, it has long been a tradition to seek foreign help when possible. In fact, one of the most successful countries in this tradition has been Japan. After the Meiji Restoration in 1868, Japan embarked on the path to modernization. The Japanese understood that they needed the assistance of experts from the Industrial Revolution, so they hired Western engineers and scientists to set up factories and industry, as well as teach the locals how to operate the high tech equipment. Foreign professionals are crucial to industrializing economy. After World War II, changing business practices made the international market more global. The earliest use of outsourcing in recent times began in the 1950s with the development of time sharing and computing. The practice of time sharing is the utilization of computing resources among a multitude of users at the same time through multiprogramming and multitasking. The introduction and emergence of this model of computing in the 1970s brought about a great change in the history of computing technologies. Through allowing individuals to collaborate at the same time on a single platform, time sharing led to increasing computing power available at a dramatically lower cost. It promoted greater usage of computer technologies and the creation of new and superior applications. This status quo lasted for 25 years, but as the development of new technologies accelerated, so did new ideas on how outsourcing should take place. Towards the end of the 20th century, important firms such as Arthur Andersen started development on new technologies, such as remote management. The question that many Americans are asking is why India? The majority of the outsourced IT workforce and foreign IT workers that come to the US are coming from India. From a historical standpoint, one of the prime factors of India's success is the high availability of higher education. The rapid industrialization and success of the German economy in the early 19th century was due in part to a similarly efficient education system. In German universities, the primary areas of study were science and research, conducting several innovative experiments and becoming a world leader in research at the time. The Germans were not using a system of trial and error to conduct their experiments. Instead, they used a carefully implemented scientific method, which helped the Germans dominate the electricity and chemical industry before World War I. Similarly, the U.S. passed the Land Grant Act of 1862 during the Civil War to found vocational and technical schools. Many of these schools of higher education had specialties ranging from agriculture to mining, establishing a scientific basis for both improving and supporting the business community. Many of America's premier universities were founded following the Land Grant Act of 1862, including the University of California, the University of Illinois, the University of Texas, Cornell, and MIT. India has also recognized the importance of higher education, establishing prestigious universities of its own. India, which only gained its independence 50 years ago, has 216 universities. Similar to the US and Germany, most of this education infrastructure came from state entities. Further innovations in outsourcing came in the 1990s, with the emergence of internet technology and software. IT outsourcing was a result. Companies wanted to focus on their facilities and personnel on their own business interests. This led to companies putting resources into their own important areas, while leaving outsourced areas that specialized in the area that they found less important. This was sort of a modern division of labor. The growth of outsourcing in the IT industry can be split into three main stages. The first generation was extending functionality. In the 1950s, large tech companies like IBM were building huge computing machines that spanned entire floors. While many smaller companies and individuals had use for these machines, very few of them could afford it. This resulted in the development of remote terminals and time sharing that allowed remote sites to use these facilities. In this case, the customers outsourced extended functionality to the provider. The second generation was physical outsourcing. In the 1960s and the 1970s, the use of computers to automate and mechanize jobs in order to cut down costs became prevalent across many industries. As a result, industries such as banking and transportation began investing into IT. However, these companies were not specialized in IT, and very soon, their systems had become far too complicated for them to handle. Very often, the original manufacturer, companies such as IBM and EDS, promised end to end maintenance of these systems, thus outsourcing hardware and operations from their customers. The third generation was offshore and process outsourcing. As many industries evolve, they begin to use more integration of technology. This results in new mundane jobs created, which need to be filled. These jobs are often filled with low paid workers in developing countries. Jobs like this include graphic design, customer support, and credit card manufacturing. This allowed companies to increase their profit margin by paying workers less. The two different types of outsourcing are called offshoring and BPO, business process outsourcing. Offshoring concerns only the technical and computer related aspects of an industry being done in a separate country. In BPO, entire parts of the supply chain are outsourced to another country.